Do you regard black magic as being purely fictitious, or is there some truth in it?
Some truth. 100% truth. There is nothing fictitious about black magic, in any way whatever. It is a fact. It is a fact which has existed for several thousand years. I mean, when we talk about black magic, we are talking about Satanism, necromancy, alchemy, witchcraft, the worship of Satan.
Right, so welcome back to the channel, people. Now, I've had this video in the pot for a minute now, and I'm really excited to present this particular section of my research to you. Because as per usual with all my videos, it touches and brings together lots of different things that we've been talking about over the past year or two. As you can probably tell, if you've been around here for a while, all of the information on this channel is holistic. As much as I try and break it up into separate topics, this stuff for the most part is best understood in conjunction with other topics, which is why I do not only stick to gematria on this channel, but I also touch on etymology, symbolism and metaphysics. That is because these topics go hand in hand with one another. With that being said, today we're going to be looking at what I have decided to call the rites of Baph, okay, or the rites of Baphomet. The rites of Baph, that's with a PH or a TH, same difference, and I'll break that down for you shortly. What I'm trying to do with this theory is connect tons of separate dots and try to make some sense of particular strains of information that I've come across in my last 10 to 12 years of research. Now, this video is essentially a culmination of that research, so let's get right on with this, yeah? This is the War on the Woman, the rites of Baph, and the connection between demons and reptilians. So first things first, what we're going to do to start this video off, we're going to look at this character right here, William Shakespeare. Now, what I want to mention right away is that you can see the word spear in his name, okay? Now, in my previous video, I told you that spear is actually one of the etymological roots of Cain, okay? The term Cain means the spear bearer, the one who holds the spear. Given that William Shakespeare is without a doubt a pseudonym chosen for a specific purpose, it leads me only to believe that the term Shakespeare was picked to denote one thing, and one thing only, which is of course that he was a cane seed. Now, old William here on the 23rd of April, which is the 113th day of the year. Now, this is very important, and all my gematria heads will already know straight away why this is important. 113 is literally known as the bullshit number, or the bullshit number, as I like to say. And it's known as the bullshit number because all of these correspondences here all sum to 113, and they all tend to have a meaning that generally tends to do with being not real, false, or lying. And of course, we're talking about Satanism in this video. Satan also sums to 113. Okay, so the picture here is quite clear. You can see what kind of energy the 113 brings, okay? And remember, 11 times 3 is 33, which is a master number for them. Pixar also have a weird obsession with this number. It's all over their films. They love a bit of 113 programming. I'll show you some images here. They say it's a joke to do with the animation room that they all shared at college. No, it's not. Everyone at Pixar is a fucking Satanist. So that's pretty much what that's about. You can't be in Disney and not, you know, be riding out for Satan. It's that simple. You've seen the porn in Disney. I don't need to explain this to you. This is very simple stuff. The Baphomet also sums to 113. Now, this is very important, and we'll swing back to this shortly in more depth, but I just want you to know right now, Satanist and Baphomet both sum to 113, along with all of these other numbers that are related to dishonesty and lies. Remember, William Shakespeare was born on the 113th day of the year and is no doubt part of the club that worships Baphomet. Right, now I'm sure you've all seen this quote before. All the world is a stage. Well, this quote is originally from a Shakespeare play called As You Like It, and it seems like a pretty fitting quote to encapsulate the space we live in at the moment, given that we have been lied to for millennia. If you are unaware, in Shakespeare's time, all of the female parts were played by male actors. Now, this is very important because it sets the foundation for what we're going to be discussing today. Because, as we know, this practice of men dressing up as women and going on stage and vice versa has not gone anywhere. It's just been rebranded and given a new shiny name in the 21st century. And that name is Hollywood. Now, in light of this, I want to draw your attention to the quote-unquote most famous painting in the world, Not my words, by the way, this is literally according to the art community, is of course the Mona Lisa. Now, is it just me, or is this quite literally the most boring, lackluster painting you have ever seen? Because, I mean, I've never understood why this is so notorious. Why is this painting so famous, you know? Apparently, it was an example of mastery of the human anatomy and natural realism, and was praised due to a specific technique called sfumato, which is best described as the technique of allowing tones and colours to shade gradually into one another, producing softened outlines or hazy forms. Now, sfumato was one of the most standard modes of painting during the Renaissance, and was apparently perfected in the Mona Lisa, which is why they say this painting is so famous. However, I don't believe a single word of that. I think there are probably a lot of better paintings out there that show this example of this particular style, and the reason Mona Lisa has been forced into the spotlight is because of what I'm about to tell you. Guys, have you ever seen Da Vinci's work St. John the Baptist? Well, here it is. The model for this painting, St. John the Baptist, was Da Vinci's apprentice called Caprotti, who was also his suspected lover. Now, do you notice anything similar about St. John the Baptist and Mona Lisa? Yeah, it's the exact same face, which can only mean that Caprotti modelled for both John the Baptist and Mona Lisa, making Mona Lisa a man dressed as a woman. Surprise, surprise. Now, the most accepted theory on Mona Lisa is that the painting's model was a woman called Lisa Gerardi or something, the wife of an Italian silk merchant. Now, their home actually went up for sale, this woman who was the supposed model for the Mona Lisa image. Guess how much their historic villa was put on the market for? $11.3 million. There goes that 113 yet again. This stuff is not a coincidence, okay? And there are many, many historians out there that agree with this theory, which essentially postulates that Mona Lisa is a drag queen. Now, using some of the ciphering techniques that I've been showing you guys recently in my videos, we can actually cipher two words out of the names Mona and Lisa, which are man and lies. Mona can be ciphered down to man, and Lisa can be ciphered out to lies. Remember, vowels are interchangeable, and the consonants are the root. The root of Mona is MN. The root of man is MN. The root of Lisa is LS. The root of lies is LS. Mona Lisa, man lies. As I previously mentioned, in Shakespeare's plays, the men would in fact play the women. It's now the 21st century, and we have Hollywood, aka Hollyweird, aka Holywood, aka Holy Phallus. And nothing has changed from Shakespeare's time. The men are still playing the women in more ways than one. But it doesn't just stop there, okay? Now I want you to watch this clip.
Put it in a piece.
You know, the trans business across Europe is astonishing. I had a paper some months back where I looked at some of the royal families of Europe going back over the last 100 years.
Yes. Yes.
And you can, they jump out at you. The male qualities, they are actually comical.
I mean, isn't that, but it's amazing, isn't it? I mean, the royal families of Europe are full of, trannies, basically. Trans people, transsexual. I mean, that's kind of mind-blowing, right? Really?
It is. Now, you could imagine that would have been feasible in the old days, before the use of photographs and video and all of that, where the people wouldn't get to see them very often. And when they did, they wouldn't get much chance to study them.
Yeah, yeah.
And when the camera became available and video and film footage became available, we had a brief window where we could see them in the raw, if you like. But in the last 20, 30, 40 years, they appear to have greatly improved the quality, so that they're much more convincing transgenders now.
Yeah.
And of course, they carry out more surgery on them now. I would recommend, if you're interested, to go out and check some of the junior members of the British royal family.
Oh, yeah.
The ones who are around 5, 6, 7, 8. They are just like little boys, you know.
Yeah.
But by the time they're 13, 14, 15, between the chemicals and the hormones, the surgery and so on, they will be more convincing females than they are at the moment.
Yeah, it's just such a strange thing to do. You know, for just normal people like us, we just think, why would anybody want to change their gender or pull out, try to do this deception? And now, do you think it's something they have to do to please their gods, right? Their master?
I think it is. I think it's part of this cult, club, society. You know, Mrs. Thatcher made a famous remark years back. She was one, and she spoke about a certain person who was getting above a station, and she was saying, he is not one of us. Mm-hmm. And, you know, at the time you would tend to think, well, they're speaking only of the power elite. But now that we have a different coloration on that now, because we see it could possibly mean that he wasn't a member of this club.
One of us, yeah.
One of us.
So they're in some club.
And I think the Mitfords used to have a term, you and non-you. The you being us, and of course the non-you being the rabble. And if you're one of us, then of course there must be some physical evidence that you have joined this club. Now, I don't think all of the males have to do it, or even all of the females, but I do. It is quite obvious, the more I study this, these people hate natural women.
Yeah.
They hate natural childbirth, they hate natural marriage, they hate natural families.
Yes. Is that their hatred of humanity in general, or what is
well,
that all
it
about?
seems to be whether Satan hates women more than men, and this is carried through, or whether it's part of a general strategy that they are following to wipe out the family, separate sex and marriage, separate the rearing of children from their parents, so that the state raises and brainwashes the child, and where generation takes place without the uterus, because the striking feature of an androgyny is the thing you can't see. They don't have a uterus.
Great point.
You know,
but they always pretend like they do.
Pardon?
The fake pregnant bellies. They have fake pregnant bellies.
Yeah, the fake pregnancy. But this is what they all have in common. The men who are men don't have a uterus, and the women who who are actually men don't.
Yes.
Now, after watching that video, all I was led to think was, why is this cross-dressing business so prevalent among so many high-ranking members of society? Why are all the upper echelons out here dressing like women? Now, given that we know that the woman is Earth, our planet is a feminine entity, and I've already told you guys before that heart is an anagram for Earth. So clearly we should be treating the woman and the Earth with love, directly from the heart. Evidently, looking at the state of the world, it's clearly not how women are treated at the moment. And these Kabbalists know that if you attack the woman, you simultaneously attack the Earth and the heart. And all this is nothing new. I explained this to you in my video when I touched on Grenfell. The woman has been demonized throughout many different cultures and religions all over the world. I mean, why did Satan deceive Eve and not Adam? Why was it Pandora that opened the box and let out all the evils onto Earth? The idea of original sin always seems to be anchored back to the woman. This attitude has had a trickle-down effect into our society, and we can see it play out today very easily. So clearly there is some kind of malevolent force out here that is directly attacking the idea of woman. And we can see that even clearly now, like in 2023, when they can't even tell you what a woman is anymore. It's ridiculous. They have no definition for a woman, or a man, for that fact. So these magicians, these Satanists, these Kabbalists, these warlocks, these wizards, they're attacking women, and the result is a collective of people pumping plastic into their face and bodies, covering their face in makeup, and working themselves into an early grave in a sorry attempt to try and look like one of these androgynous celebrities. Yeah, one of these A-listers that we all seem to idolize so much. Now again, we're asking why. Why is this so prevalent? Why is cross-dressing so prevalent? And this leads me nicely into the second part of the video, where we are going to touch on what I like to call the rites of Baph, or the rites of Baphomet. So all of this cross-dressing business and cross-sex business is a direct head nod to whom? Baphomet, of course, who is quite literally the figurehead of Satanism. And remember, they both sum to 113. I mean, the amount of times you will see Baphomet presented to you in Hollywood is just stupid. I mean, it's everywhere. Movies, TV shows, music videos, you name it, and Baphomet has made an appearance. As we all know, Hollywood and Satanism go hand in hand. There would be no Hollywood without Satanism. It's literally its backbone.
I think people are curious how a guy, you've sold how many records?
28 million.
And made millions and millions of dollars.
Yeah.
How do you end up in here?
I think everyone who's watching knows how I ended up in here.
I don't know if they do.
I'm pretty sure they do. Anytime you get it, I'm pretty sure they do. You know, there's how do I end up in here?
Never let anyone, something another woman friend of mine, Joy, told me, never let anyone take you off your square. And if it feels uncomfortable, then you are probably not in the right place. You know, just don't sell your soul. You know, and men and women do this. You know, I would say even to young boys. I've seen young boys get turned out in this industry too.
You know what I'm saying? BET, they had a nigga about to perform up there, whatever. But under the circumstances of me performing, I couldn't fuck with that shit, you know what I'm saying? Because they were trying to get a nigga to do some off-brand corner shit. I'm just not about to sell my soul for no red carpet, no publicity stuff.
Yeah, you feel me? Let's do some real nigga shit right now.
I gotta fuck with Supper Club, because at the end of the day, when I wake up, I know they all fuck with me and I fuck with y'all.
Kendall Jenner gets vampy. Kendall keeps it goth in the Twilight-inspired shoot.
And there's also parts in the album where you speak to Lucy, Lucifer,
Yep,
the devil. So you
it's trippy.
You see both sides of.
Yeah, man. It's when I go inside, I may do an after party. I see it all around, man. I may do an after party, and this is how I'll be able to write these records, because it's not just the positive energy that speaks to me; it's the negative too. It's the evils too, and we all have temptations.
Right.
You know. Me, I'm just fortunate enough to translate them temptations through record.
Right.
You know, I always said this is truly a gift for me. Putting these records out is a gift for me, because I'm not only a voice for myself, but I'm a voice for people who can't express themselves like that.
Right.
And Lucy is one of my favorite records because it's me actually coming to realization of the evils rather than acting like it's not going around. My thoughts are not happening. My thoughts are happening right in front of my face. I gotta present them.
That reminded me in a way, and not to compare it to anything, because I do think this is an original, maybe one of the most original works we've seen in a long time, but it reminded me a little bit of Snoop.
Yeah.
And Murder Was the Case. Where he had that conversation with the devil, with Lucifer, and that temptation was in his face. And of course, seems like
Lucifer Morningstar. Is that a stage name?
God-given, I'm afraid.
Why don't you tell me something? How does she end up dying in a hailstorm of bullets and you get away without a scratch?
The benefits of immortality. What will your corrupt little organization do about this?
We're done here.
Someone out there needs to be punished.
Stop caring. You're the devil.
America's most watched network unveiled its fall primetime lineup last night, including 7 shows making their debut. Among them, the highly anticipated comedy Angel from Hell.
We're never supposed to intervene in a human's life.
Oh, is that some sort of angel rule?
As a matter of fact, it is, yes. We're supposed to help from afar. Be subtle about things, you know, like implant an inspirational thought or nudge you towards a conditioner that would give your hair that perfect bounce.
The Pantene?
You're welcome.
2 stars from the upcoming series on the Sci-Fi Network, Childhood's End. Sounds interesting just from the title alone, but it's a unique series, guys. Is it kind of like a mini-series?
Yeah, absolutely it is, yes. But nice. I think I like the format of it. It's you know, 3 nights in a row. I play, as you say, a character called Corellin, who is an overlord. And the overlords come to Earth at a time when there is economic crises, wars, disease. The world's in a very bad way. Arthur C. Clarke wrote that in 1954. Here we are in 2015. We have economic crises. We have people with not enough food to eat. We have an increasingly serious war going on in the Middle East. So, you know, anyway, what happens is that these superior beings come to Earth to supervise the running of the planet. And we eradicate disease, economic crises, wars, and create a utopia that lasts for 100 years.
Mm-hmm.
But utopia comes at a price.
Of course.
Just being in such an infrastructure like BET, and I still work in the film and television industry, and I have actors that we see on TV every day that are my friends, and I'm in their homes, and I know that they ain't got no money. I've been over rappers' cribs that will go on MTV cribs talking crazy, and I've been in their house like, word, you living a little bit better than me, because it's all based off perception. Even going back to what the brother talked about with the homosexuality with the rappers, here's the kicker. It's not that the rappers are gay. That's not it. That's a misconception. What it is, it's about control. See, that's what makes it, that's why you see so many buffoons nowadays in television and film, doing things that we know are like, wow, Jamie Foxx, you would say that? Wow, Jay-Z, you would actually sit there and do an anti-Semitic commercial? Because they're in a bind, because see, Jay-Z's not gay. I'll use him as an example. He's not gay, but once you reach a certain level within that weapon of mass destruction, you have to give something up. There's something that you're going to give up because you got to be down with that crew. And how do I know? Because it happened to me. That is why I'm standing here talking right now. I reached a certain level in that station. I was the only producer to ever come as a new kid and create a multi-million-dollar revenue generating show. So it's not even reality television. But they understand that majority of us, whether we like it or not, are lazy as hell. On a spiritual level. We think because we work 3 jobs that, nah, I'm not lazy. But spiritually, psychologically, the masses are lazy. But the majority of us, and I know it's going to be kind of harsh, but the majority of us will never fulfill our dreams. So we'll never be in a position to say what we would or would not do. You understand what I'm saying? We'll never be in that position. Because before I got there, I would say the same thing until I got there. You understand? So I literally lived with the devil taking me up the mountain and saying, you can either go to the left, you have all of this. And I was there. It was ritualistically done. The vice president sent his right-hand man to me 3 straight weekends. They do everything in 3s. But now it's time for them to introduce me to the inner workings of this monster that's created. And that's why nowadays we see people caught up on secret societies, but it ain't no secret if everybody's talking about it. As a television producer who was Dave Chappelle's stand-in, which means I did his rehearsals season 1 and 2 of Chappelle's show, I saw what happened to Dave. Dave used to give me advice all the time. And one of the key things he told me was, no matter how much money they offer you, and he said they, as he pointed to my chest, he said, never forget who you are or where you come from. And he walked away from me. And I didn't get it at the time until the nigga left. Then I said, oh. And him and Charlie Murphy would tell me the same things all the time. And then I got it. This is a war. And these cats are sorcerers. And we need to take, and I know the words magic and sorcery takes people to make you think that I'm talking about the Eastwick Chronicles or Harry Potter, but this is real. Because it's affecting our babies. So when they see all these signs visually that say, whatever has happened in urban America as far as the perception on television and film, I was basically the fly on the wall. That's why this brother is so correct. There you go, so correct when he says we are at war. And I know it's somewhat difficult to believe that a war can be anything other than physical, but it is.
Yeah, we already know that Hollywood is riddled with inverts. All the men are women and the women are men. And I've previously touched on this in my video about divine androgyny. The rites practiced by the ancient fertility cults and how it is linked to the number 77 and the divine androgen. Now, of course, these same traits of androgyny can be seen on Baphomet. And we know this because it has a phallus and breasts. Now, Hollywood worships Baphomet because they practice the rites of the divine androgen. Okay, this is what it all comes back to. Remember that Hollywood is really holy wood, as in holy phallus. As you can see here, the Baphomet has the holy wood, and it's made very clear. It doubles up as a caduceus, and we can see the snakes spiraling around it, wrapping around the phallus. 2 snakes which I believe to be indicative of 2 genders. And I also believe this symbolism of the twin snakes also represents the same symbolism of the twin pillars of Jachin and Boaz that we see in Masonry, each pillar representing a different sex. The rites of Baph, or the rites of the divine androgen, are linked to Elohim, and I will explain how. The prefix El is masculine, so when this title is used to refer to Baal and Saturn, we're talking strictly in the masculine sense. However, when we add the Ohim onto the end, which is feminine, the term becomes androgynous in itself. In fact, Elohim is one of the first examples of divine androgyny. In the Kabbalah, Elohim refers to the multiple perfect unity, or the divine androgen, who is not an individual or a great man in the sky, but a supernal intelligence. Okay, this is very important because we see a direct link here between a form of higher intellect and this idea of androgens. Elohim is neither male nor female, but both. Elohim is not one, but many. And this is why the passage below speaks with a pluralized perspective. Following this logic, if we look at those passages, specifically Bereshit 1:27, we see that it reads, God, Elohim, thus created man with his image. In the image of God, Elohim, he created him, male and female. He created them. It should be clearly noted that the scripture states that man was created in the image of the Elohim as male and female. He created him male and female, androgynous. Now this Adam, or ADM character, is also known as Adam Kadmon, which is essentially the divine light without a vessel. And the idea of Adam Kadmon is more of an anthropomorphic one. However, when it manifests, it has previously been captured as an androgen. Now, there are many Elohims in the church. In fact, for instance, let's look at the Catholic Church. And we find that it is comprised solely of a load of 50-plus-year-old men with homosexual preferences. And this is a direct link to their contact with Elohim. Performing these rites, okay, the rites of El, or the rites of Baph, or the rites of the divine androgen, polarizes the natural sex of the practitioner. The practitioner literally becomes the Baphomet, or the divine androgen, embodying both masculine and feminine energies. They become the hermaphrodite, the 77. Right, now let's circle back to Baphomet for a second, because this is the most important version of the divine androgen to examine in light of our current system, I think. And what I mean by this is that pretty much our entire entertainment system, political system, education system, and banking system is run by the very same people that worship Baphomet. Now, we really need to look at this word and break it down to get the full understanding of it. And we can do this in a couple of different ways. Firstly, we need to examine this term, Baph. Notice that PH is phonetically very similar to TH. So Baph can also be understood as bath, as in BATH, as in literally a bath of water. If you're from the north of England, you actually say bath as Baph. So all of this is connected. Why is this important though? Well, this is important because there is esoteric relevance behind the idea of a bath. Okay, let me break it down. A common theme in these secret societies is the idea of purification. Okay, an initiation into the mysteries metaphysically cleanses the practitioner from your past life. You go from profane to in the know, basically. You go from dark to light. This is why all new Masons are metaphysically killed and reborn when they first join. All those stories you hear about them laying in coffins and jerking off and confessing their sins and that's a basic rite of passage for all Masons. That's rebirth. The bath works in the same way. You go from dark into light. You go from unclean to clean. And that reference from dark to light is a reference to Lucifer, the light bearer. So you're cleansed by the bath. You go in dirty, you come out clean. It's a very, very metaphysical process. Once you are cleansed through the rites of Baph, you become the 77. And just for the cherry on top, as usual, water ritual, hermaphrodite, and bath all sum to that divine androgen number, which is 77. Now, I think I've mentioned this briefly in a few other videos, but I'll go over it again. Water is in fact a stargate. That's why the word portal starts with port, as in a shipping port. Water serves as essentially an intermediary between worlds, and you can see this idea used in the movie Constantine. In this film, John Constantine states that water serves as a sort of lubricant to facilitate the transition into the hell dimension. This is very important because remember, these psychopath Kabbalists and occultists have to tell you what they're doing in the movies and TV. It's all part of the programming. It's all part of escaping universal karmic debt. They're showing you what them showing you what they're doing actually helps them manifest the timeline that they need for these events to occur. Okay, but I'm going to explain this whole idea in a separate video because it's quite confusing and it will take us off topic. But what they put in these movies is very important. They always mix a truth with a half truth. I've told you this before. So in Constantine, water is literally a way to travel through dimensions. The same theme can be seen in Stranger Things when they have to literally get a bathtub full of water, which operates as a sensory deprivation tank for El to travel to the upside down in. Yeah, even movies like The Hot Tub Time Machine allude to this idea, and there are tons of examples of this in Hollywood. Remember, our bodies can literally be at any one time up to 75% water, with our brain and our hearts actually composed of 73% of that. Now remember, Earth is a water world. It's also an anagram for heart. So it's no surprise that one of the organisms in our body that holds the most water is our heart, or our Earth. Earth is a water world. Not only this, but there are ample references to the use of water as some form of dimensional conduit in Hollywood. And there have been quite a few celebrities that have actually ended up dying literally in bathtubs. The most obviously notable being Whitney Houston, who was found dead in a bathtub in Beverly Hills in 2012. Then her daughter was found dead in the exact same circumstances 3 years later in a bathtub. Jim Morrison was found dead in a bathtub. He was even buried on the 7th of July, which takes us back to that 77 number I was showing you earlier. Judy Garland was found dead in a bathtub at 47. What a surprise. And Whitney died on the 11th of February, which is 2/11, the 47th prime. Bobby Christina Brown was found dead in a bath at 22, and Judy Garland was found dead on the 22nd of the month. These numbers are all very, very symbolic. Maria Montez, who was another actress in the same era as Judy Garland, she was also found dead in a bathtub at 39, and she was born in 66. Yeah, the point I'm making here is that if you've been around my channel for a while, you'll know that all of these numbers I'm talking about here, 47, 211, 39, 77, big, heavy occult numbers that we've discussed extensively on this channel. So I've got no doubt in my mind that these bathtub deaths are part of this same ritual. This ritual obviously being tied to Baphomet. Now, the most recent case of these bathtub deaths that we have is that of Aaron Carter. And I mean, this poor soul was MK'd out of his mind. He made some very eye-opening tweets about his childhood experiences, which just read as SRA rituals to me. He was being abused by his brother and his sister, so there is no doubt that he was under programming and either from a multi-generational SRA bloodline or has family ties to the military.
This is Aaron Carter. I want to verify that this is actually my GoFundMe page. There's been a lot of misdirection that I've had to do in order to protect myself from being the silence breaker for my brother, who is a rapist. And now they're after my life. My whole family is after my life. And they're setting me up. And Sony Records owes me $3.5 million. And they don't want to pay me. And it would be in their better interest, just like Michael told me. And Brad Paisley, who sued Sony Records for $10 million. They owe me money and they're trying to kill me off. And I'm begging you and I'm pleading you, help me raise $100,000 as soon as I can so I can move to an undisclosed location where I am safe. My realtor won't sell my house. They're all involved in this and they're trying to keep me there. They had cops come and check for a rope in my garage saying I wanted to hang myself. So please trust what I'm saying and please donate the money.
Oh, and his brother was in a band called Backstreet Boys. He was abused by his brother. Okay, think about the name Backstreet Boys. Backstreet. Like anal, Backstreet Boys, and he was abused by his brother in Backstreet Boys. Yeah, these lot are twisted, okay? I hope you know that. And just to top this all off, Aaron Carter went and got a huge butterfly tattoo right on his face. I don't need to bang on about this. We all know it's the symbol of monarch programming. So this just says it all. And he was found dead in a bathtub on the 5th of November, which is a prime date, 11/5. 11 is the 5th prime. But guess what, guys? The 5th of November is actually the 309th day of the year. So yet again, we're back to another 39 and another dead celebrity in a bathtub. Right, now, before we move on, again, let's take stock of what we've been discussing because I know it is quite difficult to connect these dots and gets a little overwhelming at times, okay? So we had a brief look at Shakespeare and Mona Lisa, and I explained how during those times, men used to play the role of women in these plays, and I told you that Mona Lisa is also a drag queen based on Leonardo assistant's lover. I then moved on to show you some clips of some questionable looking women, both from royal bloodlines and women in high positions of power, which was to show you that from the times of Shakespeare and Mona Lisa, nothing has changed. We still have this practice of men dressing up as women and vice versa. The modern day culmination of this, as I told you, is Hollywood. And we know Baphomet rules Hollywood. Baphomet is an androgyny, meaning that it's both sexual organs. This takes us back to the Mona Lisa being a man. This takes us back to Shakespeare telling us that the world's a stage, okay? And the men playing women. It all connects. It's all holistic and should be understood not as separate points, but as separate points on one huge spider web. Okay, so Shakespeare, Mona Lisa, Hollywood, they're all partaking in what I've called the rites of Baph. And that's with a PH or a TH, take your pick. And that connects to the Elohim and some of the sordid activities of the Catholic Church. But remember, it's not just them, because the Jesuit priests are deep into these rites as well. And we've just finished looking at some of the symbolism behind baths in Hollywood and some of the celebrities that have died in baths. So there is no doubt in my mind that all of this is in fact connected. Right, now we've got some context, let's have a look at some numbers. The first thing I wanted to show you is that when you spell Baphomet with the TH, it just so happens to be a double match with Mona Lisa. Well, it's actually a triple match, but I'll just want to focus on the first two ciphers at first. Now, this numerical synchronicity makes perfect sense to me because Mona Lisa is a Baphomet, which is to say that she's performing the rites of embodying the opposite sex. So this makes perfect sense. And it should also be noted that beast mode also sums to 84 and 30. And I find this very interesting given that Baphomet is commonly coupled with the term the beast, which is obviously why Crowley took the title of Beast 666. If you know about Crowley and the amount of homosexual rituals he performed, then you'll know he was all about practicing these rites. Now peep this, yeah? The rites of Baph, chicks with dicks, royal bloodline, and the men are women are all a double match, whilst royal bloodline and the women and men are in fact a triple match. Now, think back to that clip I played you earlier of all the royals. You really can't make this stuff up, guys. A triple match. Royal bloodline and the women and men. This stuff is for real. Right, so there's one more way you can break down this name, Baphomet, and that's going to lead us nicely into the final part of what I'm going to be talking about today, okay? And to find this information, you actually need to run the word backwards, okay? So Baphomet becomes Tem, Op, Ab, okay? Tem, Op, Ab. T-E-M-O-H-P-A-B. Right, now let's really pull this apart, okay? So the first prefix, Tem. Now, I'm not sure if you guys are aware of this, but Tem is in fact an astral entity, and quite an ancient one. Think of words like temper, temptation, temporary, templars. In fact, when you go back into ancient Egypt, you find that Tem is synonymous with Atum, or Atem, who is, in this particular pantheon, responsible for pretty much everything. He was the first Egyptian deity, and it's where the term Atum comes from. So Tem is directly linked to Atum from the Egyptian mythology. So this Tem deity character is ancient. This name has been around this planet for centuries. Also, if you're from the UK, think the River Thames. Now, I know this is spelled T-H-A-M-E-S, but it's phonetically spoken like Thames. T-E-M-S. Remember, I've told you that the River Thames is the crowned snake flowing through London, right? It all makes sense. So temptation. The temptation was done by a snake. We have the River Thames that's in the shape of a snake. Clearly, this deity is some form of snake-like deity. That's what I'm leaning towards. It makes sense, okay? Well, it's going to make even more sense when I look at the next string of letters with you, which is OHP. Now, this group of letters is directly related to snakes, okay? OHP. And this is tied to OPH. OHP is a snake. And we know this because if we look into ancient astrology, we see that snakes directly relate to the 13th sign, which is Ophiuchus. And you can see that same prefix there, OPH. It doesn't matter that it's OHP, it's the same letters. Yeah, and this sign is known as the snake bearer. So that's Tem, the snake bearer. This is what I see from this, okay? So far we have Tem and snake, and it ends with Ab. We all know what Ab means because I've broke this down to you before. Ab is Hebrew for father. Okay, I'll say that again. Ab is Hebrew for father. So when you run Baphomet backwards, you literally get Tem, snake, father. Pretty fitting, right? And just think again, if you're from over here in the UK, our police is called the Met. M-E-T. Which is just Tem backwards. M-E-T is also part of Baphomet. And we know that the Met is full of inverts and Satanists and abusers. They're literally the servants of the system. Remember I showed you Cressida Dick? She was a man. Yeah, she was the old police chief of the Met. She was in a relationship with Helen Ball. Dick and Ball, guys, I mean, come on, they're treating you lot like idiots. Idiots. The Met. The Thames. Baphomet. Tem. Temptations. It's all connected, and they've been telling us it for years and years.